What is today? Morning, March 8th. Public Safety Committee. I'm Councilman Smith, Chairman, joined by Council Members Perry and Zine. And with that, we have a quorum. And with the consent of my colleagues, we'll take 3. And then the donation 1, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 as consent. And the question is, does anyone want to call number 2? It could go consent, or we could talk about it, whichever you choose. Okay.
As consent, okay for me.
Consent's fine, Mr. Forrest? Okay. Then we'll consent that with this addition that was just given to us by the CAO. Let me read this for the record, and we'll present it to you. Add number 11, authorize the Chief of Police or designate to execute an extension through September 30th, 2010 of the current Memorandum of Understanding, MOA, with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department for service relating to the Human Trafficking Task Force supplemental program. So that will be added as an amendment, and there's no objection to that. We'll move on to item number 1.
John White, City Clerk, motion Zine Smith instructing the Police Department to report relative to the status of the digital in-car video camera system.
Sandy Jo MacArthur, Los Angeles Police Department.
Maggie Goodrich, Los Angeles Police Department. Good morning. I brought just 2 slides with me that I believe all of you have copies of to give you a status on where we've come over the last month since I was here on this project. First of all, I'd like to say that we actually made quite a bit of progress in the month of February since I was last here. A lot of the issues that we talked about when I was here a month ago have been resolved, I'm happy to say. What we spent the month doing was that standalone testing that I described before, which is testing the camera itself without that connection to the computer, the MDC in the car. That's what we spent February doing, and we identified some issues and we worked through those issues. The primary issues were, one was around the time synchronization, making sure that the time clock for all of those cameras reads the same so we don't have any discrepancies. We were able to identify that issue, and IBM and Coban were able to develop something to resolve that. So they implemented that about 2.5 weeks ago now. We've been testing it, and it seems to be working fine. The other issue that we had, primary issue, really was around the quality of the video and ensuring that it is up to standards. We had previously been experiencing blurry video, problems where you get fast movement, unable to see images clearly. So we spent a lot of time testing that as well. And what I did was I contacted several other agencies to get sample video, and IBM was able to provide sample video as well from other agencies. And we did side-by-side comparisons of other agency video, and then side-by-side comparisons also using different compression rates on the camera settings, that type of thing. And at this point, we believe that we are just as clear, if not better, than some other agencies. It's never going to be motion picture quality. It's not that type of technology, but we are getting a clear picture. You are able to see clearly what's in front of you, and that's improved quite a bit, and we feel like we've got the right settings now for the cameras. So those were the 2 major accomplishments over the last month, and the 2 big hurdles that we had in front of us as far as that standalone testing is concerned. We spent about 200 hours doing testing, just making sure that we didn't find anything else that could pose a problem, and so far things are looking good as far as that standalone solution is concerned. If you want to add anything?
The only thing I'd add regarding, we had several people looking at the quality to ensure that we could utilize it in the event that there was something that it did occur, there was use of force, an arrest being made and things like that. So it would have evidentiary value as well as helping to get to what really happened if there's allegations made against the officers. So we feel very comfortable with the quality.
Day and night?
Day and night, and that's where we were struggling with the issues of day and night. But yes, we're very comfortable with it. Like I said, we had several people from different levels who would be reviewing it, look at it.
As far as the plans going forward, what we plan to do this week is we're going back out to Southeast to train the senior lead officers, give them a little refresher training in that standalone system, and have them use it for the next few weeks and provide us feedback. as far as how it works standalone compared to the integrated solution they'd had before. I'd like some feedback from them on whether or not they believe it's cumbersome to have two separate systems, a computer in your car to do most everything with the standalone application just for the camera. So we'll get some feedback from them over the next couple weeks and see how that goes. While that's going on, we'll also be continuing to progress on that integrated solution to see if we can nail down what the issues are with the integrated solution, because there still are problems there with that single sign-on and all of that. So we'll be working those in parallel. My plan, as far as a timeline is concerned, is that, as I said, this week we'll start with the senior lead officers. I'd like to give them a few weeks to validate the system, give us feedback, and I'm looking at the second week of April, probably by the 11th, that we would have feedback from the SLOs, and at that point make a decision as to whether we try to wait for an integrated solution, or if the SLOs provide good feedback and say that the system's working for them standalone, I don't see any reason why we couldn't go ahead and go to all of Southeast with that standalone system and get the cameras out there and being used by the entire area sometime end of April, very first part of May.
Okay, so right now, it's just the SLOs that are using these in the one division.
Yes,
So we get all the tweaks out.
yes,
And the clock's going to now match our dispatch rather than the computer.
yes.
Okay. One thing I'd like you to check, would you take one of these units out to Valley Bureau? We're installing LED lighting throughout the city on our street lighting system, and the air guys tell me that the difference is monumental in clarity and from the air. But I'm wondering what it's going to do to those video systems. I'm sure they have automatic lens apertures that change, but LED lighting is a different kind of lighting. So go out maybe to Van Nuys, Mission, Devonshire, where they're putting in the LEDs, and just check that lighting and see what it's going to do to those camera systems. Because they tell me that it's completely different, and it's a great increase in clarity from the air, but it may have a different impact on cameras on the ground.
Yes, we'll check that for sure.
Sure.
You talking about street lighting?
Yeah, the new
Yes.
streetlights, which are phenomenal. Okay. Ms. Berry?
That's an interesting point.
Yeah. We're going to be doing that citywide, so we don't want to buy the wrong
Check on it
cameras.
now.
Yeah, and then say, oh, my God, what a mistake. So,
Okay.
not that LA would ever do such a thing.
And this is for Southeast officers?
Yes,
Now, you're dealing with the SLOs, and SLOs have a different responsibility than the officers handling radio calls and making a lot of stops. The SLOs aren't really involved, for the most part, in traffic stops, and, I mean, there are a lot of community activities. They got a vital function. But what about the officers who are handling calls, making stops, going in pursuit? Are we including any of them in this?
For
And
the-
just limited to the SLOs is a different category that may not really utilize the equipment as often as officers on regular patrol.
right, and that's why we would only use them for this first part, for this validation. What I don't want to do is hand it straight off to a patrol officer, and if there is an issue, disrupt their daily operations until at least the SLOs have used it for a little while and feel confident in it. And then at that point, that's what I was suggesting, is that then maybe at that point we start rolling it to the rest of Southeast area rather than just the SLOs. But I'd like them to vet it for us first. And also, we have seen they've helped us out with some testing over the past few months, and they are responding to calls and making stops so that we can take a look at that video.
We've actually asked them to make sure they're doing traffic stops and things like that, so we can get that type of test. Plus, people who are working for Maggie, they actually go out and make traffic stops, and they drive quick, fast, and so we're trying to test it from two different fronts.
Okay. So we're doing realistic testing?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions?
That's good.
Seeing none, this is just a verbal record, so it's a note
Continue.
file.
You can continue further.
I want to continue it.
Continued.
I'd like to continue until we finally get the full,
Good idea.
The division up and running.
until we finally get the certification that, yeah, we're up and running instead of increment. Because right now, we can still make adjustments and modifications. I see the reps are here from the company, which is important that we get this thing off the ground. Because if we're going to expand it to other parts of the city, we want to make sure that we've got a proven product. And I can remember when you and I were probably on patrol. Well, I was there way before you were. We talked about the automated logs.
Yes.
Have we ever got automated logs?
We're working on that actually right now as well.
Well, it's 42 years later,
Yeah.
we're working.
Well, when you and I did it, remember it was as tall as we were when they printed out, so.
my
Yeah,
next
for
project.
Dennis, that was a pin Automated was a...
We are working on that.
Rather than a quill.
This is the higher priority right now.
No, I understand. I mean, before you were born, we were talking about this automated log that would be printed out
Yeah.
and the watch wouldn't have to write
Yeah.
down the DFAR.
Thank you for saying that.
I mean, both of you, but it was a long time ago.
Absolutely.
Thank
And
you.
If you'd like me to come back, I think after that April 11th date, when the SLOs give us feedback, that might be a good time for me to come report.
We'll look forward to the end of April, then maybe as a scheduled date.
Great.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much. Keep up
Thank you.
progress. Very good. Move to item number 4. Is that the next item, John?
Item 4, Board of Fire Commissioners report relative to authorizing the fire department to conduct criminal background checks of certified emergency medical technician 1 personnel.
Morning, council members, Mr. Chair. Battalion Chief Patrick Butler, LAFD Planning Section.
Battalion Chief Brian Cummings, LAFD Planning Section.
And we're here today to talk about the AB 2917, which would authorize the Los Angeles Fire Department to be the recipients of criminal and background checks of our EMTs. Last year, Governor Schwarzenegger signed into law AB 2917, basically setting a statewide standard for EMTs and their background checks. A lot of the EMTs in the state are private EMTs. Our department goes through some pretty stringent background checks. So in our case, our members would be grandfathered under the law. We'll do some compliancy with the state. But what we're asking today is that to approve the resolution which will allow the Department of Justice the authority to give us the results of a background check on one of our EMTs. This will apply to really new hires because, like I say, the grandfathering, most of our members will fill into that category. But any new member hired by this department that goes through an EMT, because we're the EMT certifying agency, we would then be the recipients of this new information. There's also a duplicate information that goes to the personnel department. So that's what the resolution is for. We have about 2,600 EMTs on the fire department currently, and all of our members, like I say, have gone through a pretty rigorous background check.
Didn't they do that in the background?
They do, but what happens, this law came into effect as a result of some private ambulance companies that had some, private EMTs that had some criminal issues that they found out after the fact. A lot of our members don't have what's called subsequent arrest notification because prior to 99, we didn't use the live scan system. So what we're going to do is capture all the, about 1,500 of our members between now and July with a live scan copy of their prints. But all of our members have been backgrounded. And
When they came on the department?
yes, sir.
So if something happened after they came on, we may not have been notified of it.
Correct. If they got hired after 99, chances are that we did not use a live scan system, so the subsequent arrest notification may not exactly trigger. So potentially you're right, someone that could have come on prior to 99, it did something off duty, and it never got revealed to the employer, this would capture all of that.
Okay. And what personnel cost-wise, you're going to be able to manage within the department resources what you have?
Yes, this is just more of a reporting requirement. Any subsequent arrest notification that comes to our department will be handled through the Professional Standards Division, which is an existing model. And this is just basically one more method of receiving a complaint or investigation from another law enforcement agency.
And the likelihood is the number is going to be extremely small, if not zero.
Exactly. I mean, I think, like you say, we have pretty very rigorous background check on that. The costs associated with it will be, it's about a $35 administrative fee through DOJ. The fire department currently does this type of screening for paramedics already. We've identified funding for this, and that'll bring us into the state compliancy, which will take place July 1st. This is a one-time, basically approval of this resolution. Once it's in effect, we have it for life.
Great. Ms. Berry? While Mr. Zine's finishing up the discussion, Mr. McCosker, come on up.
Okay. Okay.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members, Pat McOsker, President, United Firefighters, Los Angeles City. I'm here in support of the motion as well. You know, we sponsored this state legislation. We think it's a great idea. We want our membership, of course, to be properly screened and compliant with the law, and everyone working sort of around us. We want to be, you know, falling under the same standards as well. So there's some protection in it as well against double jeopardy. At least the state can't be investigating somebody at the same time the employer is, and as long as the employer investigates it properly and disciplines, handles the situation properly, you won't see the state stepping in. So overall, it's a good thing, and we're very supportive of it, and I urge you to pass the motion.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Zhang?
The notes I have say that life scan from a current city contractor. Why can't we do this through the city personnel department or the police department? Why do we have to go to an outside contractor?
We actually did research this. A couple of reasons. One is our live scan machines in the department, like in the police department, would have to be reset to address volunteers, because when you go do a live scan at a police station, you're in essence submitting it into the criminal system. So they would have to recode the machines. They would then have to staff up an additional, I believe, close to 20 jailers to capture the 1,500 members of our department. And the personnel department has 2 live scan machines. So logistically, to capture 1,500 members with the city services would take, first of all, a long time, and I think cost-wise, we looked at it from that perspective too, of what we would have to pay in overtime to gather all this. We did look at that, sir. Actually, we spent about 3 weeks trying to staff that model out. In the end, the contractor that we're using was used by the Department of Water and Power, where they live scanned 10,000 of their employees over the last 2 years so they could meet some federal compliancy. So we looked at both models, and maybe even a hybrid of both would work in this case, but
Well, it says fiscal impact none, so it's going to obviously cost. How much is it going to cost?
the grandfathering is going to cost, the resolution isn't going to cost the motion for us, but the grandfathering is going to cost the department about $120,000. We identified funding out of an EMS fund we have for this, and it's because it's a state compliancy.
Is there any reimbursement from the state since it's a state law?
No, sir. No reimbursement from the state.
Okay. And then all your EMTs are firefighters, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
And when they come on the job, like Mr. McCosker came on the job, you go through a full background, criminal history, et cetera. Correct. So and then what happens with this system, if someone gets arrested for a deuce or something, drunk driving, next week, the department's notified under the system?
They'll be notified, yes, sir. Okay. Yes. And they may already will already a lot of times be notified. Yeah. This is kind of a double safety net. Really, it was designed for the private industry, but it was a set of standard for a statewide standard for EMTs. But because we're sworn and we've gone through background, I don't really see it as being a huge impact on us as far as...
It's not going to reveal anything that we probably don't already know.
Correct.
But it complies with the
state law, yes, sir.
But you could have a single instance, and it'd probably be rare, where a firefighter could be arrested on a DUI in another state. They don't tell us. We would never know. This would catch it in the criminal system, in a
Correct.
fingerprint system. So.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have internal policy. You're supposed to notify the employer when you're arrested, and we as a union, of course, want that and encourage our members and work with them to make the proper notifications. There may be a few cases where guys thought they would get away with it, and it comes up now, and what we're going to encourage them regarding this is to come forward now in advance of this, and let's make the employer aware, and let's get it, appropriately dealt with. Don't have it come out after the fact.
Very good.
Okay, that's good.
No other questions? We'll move this forward with council with approval. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it. And that brings us to item number 5.
Item 5, Department of Animal Services report requesting that the Los Angeles Municipal Code be amended to clarify eligibility for certain free benefits for animal licensing, spay and neuter, impounds, and redemptions.
Good morning, council members. Linda Barth from LA Animal Services. Just to give you a brief update, what we're asking you to consider today is really just updating our municipal code to give our staff clarity on how we deal with our very low-income residents in the city and the services that the municipal code allows us to offer them for free. There's really 4 quick points. One is that we have language here that removes the current language that says we use the HUD very low income for 2-person families only to make all our determinations of whether a family is low income or not. What we're proposing with this language is to make it that we just match the HUD low income for the family size. So a family of 5 or 6 or whatever would match that scale, and HUD publishes that every year. So we would always line up the schedule. That's the way DWP and other city services do it. They just line up with whatever the family size is. Could be a 1-person family as well. We also would like to add a language updating the definition of disability. The city attorney advises that we don't have to necessarily put a whole long definition, but we should add something that says our definition matches the U.S. Department of Labor's definition of disability, so that we have clarity. We can give clarity to our staff on what a disability is.
What had you been using before?
The best we can, maybe a federal guideline that we pass out to our staff, but the wording of disability is very vague in the code, and it sort of implies only someone who has a physical disability.
Yeah, so
in other words, they're in a wheelchair or something like that.
Or if somebody walked in with a placard from DMV, which virtually anybody can get, saying they're disabled, you would have accepted that?
Yes, we would have accepted that.
So now there's going to be a more strict definition.
It can be closer to what the federal law requires as far as disability. Let's see. We also have low-income spay-neuter programs that subsidize spay-neuter surgeries for people who really cannot afford to do it otherwise, and those programs don't have a specific definition. So we've been using the same definition as for seniors and disabled, free license and free services, but we'd like to include that in the code so that that's clear. What had been happening previously is that someone would just pick a number. 40,000, 38,000, 45,000, and so forth, and we think tying it to HUD, like our other services, makes more sense. And lastly, and this is a very small change, seniors and disabled can only receive a free license if the animal is spayed or neutered, but the code explicitly says they get 3 months to do that. So they can go ahead and get their free license, and then they have 3 months to get their animal spayed and neutered, which is inconsistent with other parts of our code, which require that to be done within 60 days. So our recommendation is just to remove that language, and then, we would just be consistent with other language as far as the requirement for spay-neuter. And I will say that the City of Los Angeles is, I don't know that it's unique, but it is one of the few cities that offers 100% free disabled and senior citizen licenses. Most jurisdictions offer significant discounts, half price or less, but we are one of the cities that offers a free $15 license, one only, for disabled and seniors. They also have some other benefits, such as redeeming their dog free if it's lost. I think the city works very hard to make sure that we can reunite animals with disabled and senior owners at the lowest impact to them, to get more animals out alive. And I can answer any other questions.
Is there any connection to disability and senior status with low-income eligibility, or is it just anybody that fits?
No, I'm sorry I didn't make that clear. A senior or a disabled person must also be low income to receive the free license, the other benefits.
Good.
The spay-neuter right now is just anyone who meets that low income status.
Yeah, very good. Okay, and the last thing is, I think it was a concern I brought up last time when we talked about these spay and neuter certificate stuff, is citizens of L.A. Residency requirements. How do we guarantee that, particularly in the Strand areas and the Harbor area where you're surrounded on all sides by the county?
Yeah, actually, a lot of our centers have those issues. We require 2 identifications to receive the low-income benefits. One is going to be a driver's license that verifies their address, and then the other is a utility bill, which shows that they're actually paying their electric meter at a DWP bill, in essence. We require either a DWP bill or other kinds of financial verification as well in order to prove low-income status. So if, for example, maybe they don't have a DWP bill because maybe they're a renter at so they don't have their own utility bills. Then they have to go through an application process. They're not given the benefits on the spot. They have to go through an application process, and they have to produce materials such as Social Security, supplemental income, or some other kind of program that also is tied to HUD. And so then we do a three-way check on the addresses, where they say they live, what their driver's license, and where these benefits are arriving, before we give them the voucher or the free license.
Okay, Ms. Perry?
I just wanted to ask a question about the definition of disability and how that is, how do you document that?
Well, generally speaking, I think the councilman's right, that if someone brings in, say, a handicap placard or something like that, we have been giving them benefits. Again, because we're going through an application process, we have an opportunity to get information from a program they're on which might indicate their disability status. So we don't have a lot of disabled persons that come and get these kinds of benefits, very, very low compared to seniors. And I think that what we're trying to do now is we sort of rework our process of verification.
Not everybody has a handicap placard, things like that.
Or drive?
Yeah.
But then again, just about anybody can get a handicap placard from DMV, so, yeah, well, it's, yeah.
Or a spot meet.
So,
They sell them a spot meet.
yeah.
Well,
You can get them real easy.
And it can be very challenging for our staff, too, which is, again, they're got a long line of people, and somebody says, are you trying to say I'm not disabled? Let me just go get my my attorney. So that's one of the reasons we're trying to go with an application process, so that instead of there being confrontations at the shelter and arguing and throwing down placards and making demands, that we ask for appropriate documentation that we can check out and measure against something that's and criteria. Yes.
Mrs. Zine?
And then disabled doesn't have to be visual. It could be heart, respiratory, some
That's
other
correct.
type of disability. When you talk about low-income eligibility and very low income, what's the distinction between low and very low?
The HUD has various standards. Very low income, for example, now for a family of two is about $33,000. I think it is for this fiscal year. For a family of four would be $38,000. Low income, we were talking about, say, for a family of four, I actually have the chart, is more like about $50,000. This is for the 2009. So low income for a four-person family would be $63,000.
63,000?
That's what it would be.
Low income?
That's what's called low income. In other words, 80.
So we're starting our police officers at 45,000, so they're low income. No, they're very low income then.
Well, very low income for a four-person family is $39,650.
A four-person family.
Yeah, but a police officer starting with a wife and two children,
If he's
If he's a single,
If he's
yeah.
furloughed.
with furlough, he could be eligible to be a very low income.
Husband and two children.
I'm trying to make a comparison between the salaries and where we have the standard, the national standard. Also, you talk about the seniors. What age are we referring to?
62.
62?
That's consistent
You're a
with.
senior at 62?
That's consistent with other places in.
Well, that's embarrassing for some of us. I have no further questions. The senior's going to rest.
That's a rare moment. Write that one down. Mr. Zine was shut down. Thank you. Ms. Phyllis Doherty.
For the record, it could be a wife and a female officer and two children.
That's right.
Either way,
Yeah,
either way.
either way.
And a
Just
dog.
so you can update your script, you know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Phyllis. But you can get a free breakfast at Denny's, too.
Phyllis Doherty with Animal Issues, but I just wanted to support Ms. Barth in this and your efforts to try to bring things into line. It's such a pleasure now that we don't have the constant crisis environment of Ed Boakes that she's having an opportunity to actually address this very antiquated municipal code section for animal services, and this is so needed. And there's some other things that we need to do in terms of licensing and so forth to bring us in line. For instance, we don't have any penalty, and I don't like to use the word penalty, but let me use that for lack of a better thing, for people who have not licensed in the past, whereas the county, Long Beach right now is doing their amnesty. If they go to the door and they say, oh, that's a nice dog, how old is it? The person says, oh, it's 5 years old, and had it since it was a puppy, and they say, whoops, you owe us for 5 years of licensing. However, then they reduce that, but it's a very good incentive, and we were talking about possibly being able to talk with Marsha Maid also about if the city, maybe you can help Ms. Barth in getting it through, if we could implement that on ours, so that then maybe the county and the city could have a amnesty period at the same time and get a lot of publicity, city and county. If you haven't paid in the past, here's your chance. Come and get your dog license, no penalties for a 1-month period. That's what Long Beach is doing right now. And it's a really good incentive because there's talk of giving them a free year. That doesn't work because what about the rest of us that pay? Then you're punishing us. So that she's working really hard to try to do a lot of these things, and I just want to tell you we really appreciate it, and I'm sure you do too.
Thank you. Very
Thank
good.
you.
Is that coming forward, Linda? Is that idea of back amnesty and back
Yes,
dating?
yes, we will be. We've already presented some licensing reforms that you've approved, but we have some more coming down the pike that we've talked to the county. So they'll be coming as part of this budget process. They'll be coming to you within the next month or so.
Very good. Very
Thank you.
That was going to be my next question, so thank you very much. If there's no objections, then we'll move that council with approval. And that concludes today's agenda, I believe. If there's no one wishing to speak to us on an item on today's agenda, that concludes the meeting. Thank you very much.
Must be tired.
Thank you. This is good.
Very well, we was very well behaved.
You should have seen the display. They had 6,000. Yeah.